Hare Krishna, my dear devotees, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Today we're hearing from King Sudyuma becomes a woman, and chapter 1. Is that right, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhupada, in Canto 9, Chapter 1.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hare
This chapter describes how Sudyuma became a woman and how the dynasty of Vaivasvata was amalgamated with the Soma Vamsa, the dynasty coming from the moon, by the desire of Maharaj Parikshit. Sukadeva Goswami told about the dynasty of Vaivasvata who was formerly King Satyavrata, the ruler of Dravida. While describing this dynasty, he also described how the Supreme Personality of Godhead, while lying down in the waters of devastation, gave birth to Lord Brahma from a lotus generated from his navel. From the mind of Lord Brahma, Marichi was generated, and his son was Kashyapa. From Kashyapa, through Aditi, Vivaswan was generated, and from Vivaswan came Shraddha Manu, who was born from the womb of Samya, Samjana, Shraddha wife. Shraddha gave birth to 10 sons, such as Ikshwaku and Nriga. Shraddha or Vaivasvata Manu, the father of Maharaj Ikshvaku, was sonless before Ikshvaku's birth, but by the grace of the great sage Vasista, he performed the yajna to satisfy Mitra and Varuna. Then, although Vaivasvata Manu wanted a son, by the desire of his wife, he got a daughter named Ila. Manu, however, was not satisfied with the daughter. Consequently, for Manu's satisfaction, the great sage Vasista prayed for Ila to be transformed into a boy, and his prayer was fulfilled by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, Ila became a beautiful young man named Sudyoma. Once upon a time, Sudyoma went on tour with his ministers. At the foot of the mountain Sumeru, there is a forest named Sukkumara, and as soon as they entered that forest, they were all transformed into women. When Maharaj Parikshit inquired from Sukadeva Goswami about the reason for this transformation, Sukadeva Goswami described how Sudyuma, being transformed into a woman, accepted Buddha, the son of the moon, as her husband and had a son named Puru Rava. By the grace of Lord Shiva, Sudyuma received the benediction that he would live 1 month as a woman and 1 month as a man. Thus, he regained his kingdom and had 3 sons named Utkala, Gaya, and Vimala, who were all very religious. Thereafter, he entrusted his kingdom to Pururava and took the order of Vanakrishna life. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 1, Text 1. King Parikshit said, My lord, Sukadeva Goswami, you have elaborately described all the periods of various manus, and within those periods, the wonderful activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has unlimited potency. I am fortunate to have heard all of this from you. Text 2 and 3. Chaturata, the saintly king of Dravida Desha, who received spiritual knowledge at the end of the last millennium by the grace of the Supreme, later became Vaivaswatamanu, the son of Vivaswan. In the next Manvantara period of Manu, I have received this knowledge from you. I also understand that such kings as Ikshvaku were his sons, as you have already explained. Text number 4. O greatly fortunate Sukadeva Goswami, O great Brahman, kindly describe to us separately the dynasties and characteristics of all those kings, for we are always eager to hear such topics from you. Text number 5. Kindly tell us about the abilities of all the celebrated kings born in the dynasty of Vaivasvatamana, including those who have already passed, those who may appear in the future, and those who exist at present. Text number 6. Sutta Goswami said, when Sukadeva Goswami, the greatest knower of the religious principles, was thus requested by Maharaj Parikshit in the assembly of all the scholars learned in Vedic knowledge, he then proceeded to speak. Text number 7. Sukadeva Goswami continued, O king, subduer of your enemies, now hear from me in great detail about the dynasty of Manu. I shall explain as much as possible, although one could not say everything about it, even in hundreds of years. Text number 8. The transcendental Supreme Personality Godhead, the super soul of all living entities, who are in different statuses of life, high and low, existed at the end of the millennium, when neither this manifested cosmos nor anything else but him existed. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Taking the proper position from which to describe the dynasty of Manu, Sukadeva Goswami begins by saying that when the entire world is inundated, only the Supreme Personality of Godhead exists and nothing else. Sukadeva Goswami will now describe how the Lord the Lord creates other things one after another. Text number 9. O King Parikshit, from the navel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead was generated a golden lotus on which the four-faced Lord Brahma took his birth. Text number 10. From the mind of Lord Brahma, Marichi took birth, and from the semen of Marichi, Kasyapa appeared from the womb of the daughter of Daksha Maharaja. From Kasyapa, by the womb of Aditi, Vivaswan took birth. Text 11 and 12. O king, best of the Bharata dynasty, from Vivaswan, by the womb of Samjana, Shradadeva Manu was born. Shradadeva Manu, having conquered his senses, begot 10 sons in the womb of his wife, Shraddha. The names of these sons were Ixwaku, Riga, Saryati, Dirishta, Karusaka, Narish Yanta, Prisadara, Nabaga, and Kavi. Text 13. Manu at first had no sons. Therefore, in order to get a son for him, the great saint Vaivaswata, who was very powerful in spiritual knowledge, performed a sacrifice satisfying the demigods, Mitra and Varuna. Text 14. During the sacrifice, Shraddha, Manu's wife, who was observing the vow of subsisting only on drinking milk, approached the priest offering the sacrifice, offered obeisances to him, and begged for a daughter. Text 15. Told by the chief priests, now offer oblations. The person in charge of the of oblations took clarified butter to offer. He then remembered the request of Manu's wife and performed the sacrifice while chanting the word Vasat. Manu had begun that sacrifice for the sake of getting a son. But because the priest was diverted by the request of Manu's wife, a daughter named Ila was born. Upon seeing the daughter, Manu was not very satisfied. Thus, he spoke to his guru Vasista as follows. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Because Manu had no issue, he was pleased at the birth of the child, even though a daughter, and gave her the name Ila. Later, however, he was not very satisfied to see the daughter instead of a son, because he had no issue. He was certainly very glad at the birth of Ila, but his pleasure was temporary. So you gotta make your mind up. And text 17. My Lord, all of you are expert in chanting the Vedic mantras. How then has the result been opposite to the one desired? This is a matter for lamentation. There should not have been such a reversal of the results of the Vedic mantras. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In this age, the performance of yajna has been forbidden because no one can properly chant the Vedic mantras. If Vedic mantras are chanted properly, the desire for which a sacrifice is performed must be successful. Therefore, the Hare Krishna chant is called the Maha Mantra, the great exalted mantra above all other Vedic mantras, because simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra brings so many beneficial effects, as explained by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Siksastika 1. Chetodarpana Marjanam Baba Mahadevagni Naravanam Shaya Kaira Vichandrika Vitaram Vidya Vadu Jivanam Ananda Buddhivardhanam Pratipadam Pranamritasvadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. Glory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. The Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. Therefore, the best performance of yajna given to us is the Sankirtana yajna. Yajnai Sankirtana Paraya Yajanti Hi Sumedasaha. Bhagavatam 11.5.32. Those who are intelligent take advantage of the greatest yajna in this age of chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, Maha mantra in congregation. When the Hare Krishna mantra is chanted by many men together, the chanting is called Sankirtana. And as a result of such yajna, there will be clouds in the sky. Yajnat Bhavati Parjanya. In these days of drought, people can gain relief from scarcity of rain and food by the simple method of the Hare Krishna Yajna. Indeed, this can relieve all human society. So why don't we do that? At present, there are droughts throughout Europe and America, and people are suffering. But if people take this Krishna consciousness movement seriously, if they stop their sinful activities and chant the Hare Krishna mantra, all their problems will be solved without difficulty. In other processes of yoga, there are difficulties because there are no learned scholars who can chant the mantras perfectly well, nor is it possible to secure the ingredients to perform the yoga, because human society is poverty stricken and men are devoid of Vedic knowledge and the power to chant the Vedic mantras. The Hare Krishna mantra is the only shelter. People should be intelligent enough to chant it. Yajna Sankirtana Paraya, Yajante Hi Sumidasaha. Those whose brains are dull cannot understand this chanting, nor can they take to it. Well, what's interesting is our so-called pundits haven't understood this. That you don't have to chant all these other mantras. You just chant the Hare Krishna mantra, which is the only shelter. People should be intelligent enough to chant it. Yajnai Sankirtana Paraya, Yajanti Hi Sumedasana. Those whose brains are dull cannot understand this chanting, nor can they take to it. That means you don't have to chant any of these other mantras. You simply chant the Hare Krishna Maha mantra sincerely. That covers everything. Is there a question?
No more.
Text 18. You are all self-controlled, well-balanced in mind, and aware of the absolute truth. And because of austerities and penances, you are completely cleansed of all material contamination. Your words, like those of the demigods, are never baffled. Then how is it possible that your termination has failed? Well, that's a good question. Let's see what the answer is. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. We have learned from many Vedic literatures that a benediction or curse given by the demigods never proves false. By performing austerities and, okay, 1 second, there's a bunch of pages here. By performing austerities and penances, by controlling the senses and mind, and by achieving full knowledge of the absolute truth, one is fully cleansed of material contamination. Then one's words and blessings, like those of the demigods, are never a failure. Wow. Text 19. The most powerful great grandfather Vasista, after hearing these words of Manu, understood the discrepancy on the part of the priest. Thus, he spoke as follows to the son of the sun god. Text 20. This discrepancy in the objective is due to your priest's deviation from the original purpose. However, by my own prowess, I shall give you a good son. Oh, well, that's good. Text 21. Sukadeva Goswami said, O King Parikshit, after the most famous and powerful Vasista made this decision, he offered prayers to the Supreme Person, Vishnu, to transform Ila into a male. Text 22. The Supreme Personality Godhead, the Supreme Controller, being pleased with Vasista, gave him the benediction he desired. Thus, Ila was transformed into a very fine male named Sudyama. Text 23 and 24. O King Parikshit, that hero, Sudyama, accompanied by a few ministers and associates and riding on a horse brought from Sindhu Pradesha, once went on the forest to hunt. He wore armor and was decorated with bows and arrows, and he was very beautiful. While following the animals and killing them, he reached the northern part of the forest. There is the north at the bottom of Mount Meru. There in the north, at the bottom of Mount Meru, is a forest known as Sukumara, where Lord Shiva always enjoys with Uma. Sudyumna entered that forest. Well, something happens when he enters that forest. O King Parikshit, as soon as Sudyumna, who was expert in subduing enemies, entered the forest, he saw himself transformed into a female, and his horse transformed into a mare. When his followers also saw their identities transformed and their sex reversed, they were all very morose and just looked at one another. Text 28. Maharaj Parikshit said, O most powerful Brahmana, why was this place so empowered, and who made it so powerful? Kindly answer this question, for I am very eager to hear about this. That just proves that the Bhagavatam is full of wonderful experiences and very interesting. Text 29. Sukadeva Goswami answers. Great saintly persons who strictly observe the spiritual rules and regulations and whose own effulgence dissipated all the darkness of all directions once came to see Lord Shiva in that forest. Okay. Text 30. When the goddess Ambika saw the great saintly persons, she was very much ashamed because at that time she was naked. She immediately got up from the lap of her husband and tried to cover her breast. Okay. Seeing Lord Shiva, Parvati engaged in sexual affairs. All the great saintly persons immediately desisted from going further and departed for the ashram of Narayana. Yeah, they didn't want to sit there and watch Shiva and Parvati having sex. Next, text 32. Thereupon, just to please his wife, Lord Shiva said, any male entering this place shall immediately become a female. Yeah. Text 33. Since that time, no male had entered that forest. But now, King Sudyuma, having been transformed into a female, began to walk with his associates from one forest to another. But they all became women. In Bhagavad Gita 2:22, it is said, Vasam Sijiranani Yata Vihaya Navani Grinati Naro Parani Tata Sarirani Vihaya Jirnani Anyani Sanyati Navani Dehi. As a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. The body is just like a dress, and here this is proved. Sudyuma and his associates were all male, which means that their souls were covered by male dress. But now they became female, which means that their dress was changed. The soul, however, remains the same. It is said that by modern medical treatment, a male can be transformed into a female, and a female into a male. Yeah, that's happening nowadays. The body, however, has no connection with the soul. The body can be changed, either in this life or the next. Therefore, one who has knowledge of the soul and how the soul transmigrates from one body to another does not pay attention to the body, which is nothing but a covering dress. Pandita Samadarshina. Such person sees the soul, which is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, he is a Samadarshi, a learned person. Yeah. He understands that sexuality is something that can be changed at any time. Text 34. Sudyuma had been transformed into the best of beautiful women who excite sexual desire and was surrounded by other women. Upon seeing this beautiful woman loitering, I like that word, loitering, in other words, hanging out near his ashrama, Buddha, the son of the moon, immediately desired to enjoy her. Text 35. The beautiful woman also desired to accept Buddha, the son of the king of the moon, as her husband. Thus Buddha begot in her womb a son named Pururava. Haribol. Text 36. I heard from reliable sources that King Sudyumna, the son of Manu, having thus achieved femininity, remembered his familial spiritual master, Vasista. Text 37. Upon seeing Sudyumna, the deplorable, upon seeing Sudyuma's deplorable condition, Vasista was very much aggrieved. Desiring for Sudyumna to regain his maleness, Vasista again began to worship Lord Shankara, Shiva. O King Parikshit, Lord Shiva was pleased with Vasista. Therefore, to satisfy him and to keep his own word to Parvati, Lord Shiva said to that saintly person, your disciple, Sudyumna, may remain a male for 1 month and a female for the next. In this way, he may rule the world as he likes. I hope, all the homosex people and don't read this because there's something they will love. Purport. The word Gotraja is significant in this connection. Brahmanas generally act as spiritual masters of two dynasties. One is their disciplic succession, and the other is their dynasty born of their semen. Both descendants belong to the same Gotra or dynasty. In the Vedic system, we sometimes find that both Brahmanas and Kshatriyas and even Vaishyas come in the disciplic succession of the same rishi. Because the Gotra and dynasty are one, there is no difference between the disciples and the family born of the semen. The same system still prevails in Indian society, especially in regard to marriage, for which the Gotra is calculated. Here, the word Gotraja refers to those born in the same dynasty, whether they be disciples or members of the family. Text number 40. Thus being favored by the spiritual master, according to the words of Lord Shiva, Sudyumna regained his desired maleness. Regained his desired maleness every alternate month, and in this way ruled the kingdom. So 1 month he's a woman, another month he's a man. Although the citizens were not satisfied with this, the citizens could understand that the king was transformed into a female. Every alternate month, and therefore could not discharge his royal duty. Consequently, they were not very satisfied. Yeah, 1 month he's a man, another month he's a woman. O son, I'm sorry, O king, Yumna had three very pious sons named Utkala, Gaya, and Vimala, who became the kings of the Dakshina Pata, text 42. Thereafter, when the time was right, when Sudyumna, the king of the world, was sufficiently old, he delivered the entire kingdom to his son, Pururava, and entered the forests. According to the Vedic system, one within the institution of Varna and Ashrama must leave his family life after he reaches 50 years of age. Parishcha, par, let's see, Panchasad Urdhvam Vanam Vajet. Thus, Sudyumna followed the prescribed regulations of Varnashrama by leaving the kingdom and going to the forest to complete his spiritual life. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the ninth canto, first chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled King Sudyumna Becomes a Woman. Okay, now we're on chapter 2. The dynasties of the sons of Manu. This second chapter describes the dynasties of the sons of Manu, headed by Karusha. After Sudyumna accepted the order of Vanaprastha and departed for the forest, Vaivasvata Manu, being desirous of sons, worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead and consequently begot 10 sons like Maharaj Ikshvaku, all of whom were like their father. One of these sons, Prashadara, was engaged in the duty of protecting cows at night with a sword in his hand. Following the order of his spiritual master, he would stand in this way for the entire night. Once, in the darkness of night, a tiger seized a cow from the cowshed, and when Prisadara came to know this, he took a sword in his hand and followed the tiger. Unfortunately, when he finally approached the tiger, he could not distinguish between the cow and the tiger in the dark, and thus he killed the cow. Oh my God, what a mistake. Because of this, his spiritual master cursed him to take birth in a Sudra family. But Prisadara practiced mystic yoga, and in bhakti yoga, he worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then he voluntarily entered a blazing forest fire, thus relinquishing his material body and going back home, back to Godhead. Wow. Kavi, the youngest son of Manu, was a great devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead from his very childhood. From Manu's son, known as Karusa, a sect of Kshatriyas known as Karushas was generated. Manu also had a son known as Drishta, yes, from whom another sect of Kshatriyas was generated. But although they were born of one who had the qualities of a Kshatriya, they became Brahmanas. From the Nriga, another son of Manu, came the sons and grandsons known as Sumati, Bhutaj, Yota, and Vasu. From Vasu, in succession, came Pratika, and from him came Oghavan. Descending in order from the seminal dynasty of the Narishyanta, another son, Manu, were another son of Manu were Chitrasena, Riksha, and Midhavan, Purna, Indrasena, Vitrahotra, Satyas Rava, Urush Rava, Devadatta, and Agni Vaisya. From the Kshatriya known as Agni Vaisya came the celebrated Brahmana dynasty known as Agni Vaisyayana. From the seminal dynasty of Drishta, another son of Manu, came Nabhaga, and from him in succession came Blahandana, Vatsapriti, Par, Pramsu, and Pramati, Kanitra, Chaksusa, Vivivasati, Ramba, Kaninetra, Karadhamma, Aviksit, Maruta, Dhamma, Rajyavardhana, Suriti, Nara, Kevala, Dumduman, Vegavan, Buddha, and Trina Bindu. In this way, many sons and grandsons were born in this dynasty. From Trina Bindu came a daughter named Ilavila, from whom Kuvera took birth. Trina Bindu also had three sons named Visala, Sunya Bandhu, and Dhumraketu. The son of Visala was Hemachandra, and his son was Dhumraksha, and his son was Samyama. The sons of Samyama were Devaja and Krishasva. Krishasva's son Samadatta performed an Aswamedha sacrifice, and by worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, he achieved the supreme perfection of going back home, back to Godhead. Text number 1. Sukadeva Goswami said, thereafter, when his son Sudyumna had thus gone to the forest to accept the order of Vanaprastha, Vaivaswata Manu, also known as Shraddha Deva, being desirous of getting more sons, performed severe austerities on the bank of the Yamuna for 100 years. Oh my God. Text 2. Then, because of his desire for sons, Manu, known as Shraddha Deva, worshipped the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, the Lord of the demigods. Thus he got 10 sons exactly like himself. Among them all, Ikshvaku was the eldest. Text number 3. Among these sons, Prisadra, following the order of his spiritual master, was engaged as a protector of cows. He would stand all night with a sword to give the cows protection. Oh, well, that's very good. One who becomes Virasana, takes the vow to stand all night with a sword to give protection to the cows. Because Prisadra was engaged in this way, it is to be understood that he had no dynasty. We can further understand from this vow accepted by Prasadra how essential it is to protect the cows. Some son of a Kshatriya would take the vow to protect the cows from ferocious animals, even at night. What then is it to be said of sending cows to slaughterhouses? This is a most sinful activity in human society. Oh my God. It's taking place every day. That's why there's so much suffering in this world. Once at night, while it was raining, a tiger entered the land of the cowshed. Upon seeing the tiger, all the cows who were lying down got up in fear and scattered here and there on the land. When the very strong tiger seized the cow screamed in distress and fear. And Prishadra, hearing the screaming, immediately followed the sound. He took up his sword, but because the stars were covered by clouds, he mistook the cow for the tiger and mistakenly cut off the cow's head with great force. Oh, what a mistake that is. Oh my God. Text 7. Because the tiger's ear had been cut by the edge of the sword, the tiger was very afraid, and it fled from that place while bleeding on the streets. In the morning, when Prasadra, who was quite able to subdue his enemy, saw that he had killed the cow, although at night he thought he killed the tiger, he was very unhappy. Oh, yeah, anyone would be horrified by such a thing. Text number 9. Although Vrisadira had committed the sin unknowingly, his family priest Vasista cursed him, saying, in your next life you shall not be able to become a Kshatriya. Instead, you shall take birth as a Sudra because of killing the cow. Well, yeah, of course. Killing a cow is very sinful. Purport. It appears that Vasista was not freed from tamoguna, the mode of ignorance. As the family priest or spiritual master of Prashadra, Vasista should have taken Prashadra's offense as lightly, but instead, Vasista cursed him to become a Sudra. It is the duty of a family priest not to curse a disciple, but to give him relief through the performances of some sort of atonement. Vasista, however, did just the opposite. Therefore, Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakura says that he was Durmati In other words, his intelligence was not very good. Text 10. When the hero Prasadra was thus cursed by his spiritual master, he accepted the curse with folded hands. Then, having controlled his senses, he took the vow of brahmacharya, which is approved by all great sages. Text 11 to 13. Thereafter, Prasadra gained relief from all responsibilities because peaceful in mind and established control over his senses, being unaffected by material conditions, being pleased with whatever was available by the grace of the Lord to maintain body and soul together, and being equal toward everyone. He gave full attention to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, who is the transcendental supersoul free from material contamination. Oh, that's wonderful. Thus, Prasadira, fully satisfied in pure knowledge, always keeping his mind on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, achieved pure devotional service to the Lord and began traveling all over the world without affection for material activities, as if he were deaf, dumb, and blind. Yeah, he's not going to engage in any, let's say, relationships. He's going to be like an outcast. Text 14. With this attitude, Prasadra became a great saint. And when he entered the forest and saw a blazing forest fire, he took his opportunity to burn his body in the fire. Thus he achieved the transcendental spiritual world. Wow. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 4.9, Janma karma chame divyam, evam yo viti takvata, takvadeham punarjanma, laiti mam itiso arjuna. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activity does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. Prashadra became, Prashadra, because of his karma, was cursed to take his next birth as a Sudra, but because he took to saintly life, specifically concentrating his mind always upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he became a pure devotee. Immediately after giving up his body in the fire, he reached the spiritual world. As mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, Mam Eti, as a result of his devotional situation. Devotional service performed by thinking of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is so powerful that although Prishadra was cursed, he avoided the terrible consequence of becoming a Sudra and instead returned home back to Godhead. As stated in Brahma Samhita 5.54, Srindra Gopam Atavendram Aho Swakarma Pandanda Rutva Phala Vajanam Abdanoti Karmani Nirdahati Kintu Chabakti Bhajam Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Brahma Samhita 5.54. Those who engage in devotional service are unaffected by the results of material activities. Otherwise, everyone, from the smallest microbe up to the king of heaven, Indra, is subject to the laws of karma. A pure devotee, being always engaged in the service of the Lord, is exempt from these laws. That is a wonderful, wonderful statement. So, we should always be engaged in the service of Krishna. That will exempt us from the severe laws of material nature. Text 15. Being reluctant to accept material enjoyment, Manu's youngest son, whose name was Kavi, gave up the kingdom before attaining full youth. Accompanied by his friends, he went to the forest, always thinking of the self-indulgent Supreme Personality of Godhead within the core of his heart. Thus he attained perfection. Text 16. From Karusha, another son of Manu, came the Karusha dynasty, a family of Kshatriyas. The Karusha Kshatriyas were the kings of the northern direction. They were celebrated protectors of Brahminical culture and were all firmly religious. Excuse me. Text 17. From the son of Manu, named Dhrishta, came a Kshatriya caste called Dharishtas, whose members achieved the position of Brahmanas in this world. Then from the son of Manu, named Nriga, came Sumati. From Sumati came Bhutaj Jyoti, and from Bhutaj Jyoti came Vasu. Purport. Here is it said, Kshatram Brahma Bhulyam, Gatam Kshito. Although the Dharistas belonged to the Kshatriya caste, they were able to convert themselves into Brahmanas. This gives clear evidence supporting the following statement by Narada, Bhagavatam 7.11.35, Yasya yav lakshanam proktam pumso varna vidyan jakam yad anyatrapi drishyata tat penaiva vinir, he said. If the qualities of one group are found in the men of another, those men should be recognized by their qualities, by their symptoms, not by the caste of the family in which they were born. Thank God. Birth is not at all important. It is one's qualities that are stressed in all Vedic literature. Yeah, you can be born a Sudra, but you can develop the qualities of a genuine devotee. Okay, text 18, I think we'll end this. The son of Vasu was Pratika, whose son was Oghavan. Oghavan's son was also known as Oghavan, and his daughter was Oghavati. Sudarshana married that daughter. Text 19. From Narishyanta came a son named Chitrasena, and from him a son named Riksha. From Riksha came Midhavan. From Midhavan came Purna, and from Purna came Indrasena. Text 20. From Indrasena came Vitrahotra. From Vitrahotra came Satyasrava. From Satyasrava came the son named Urushrava. And from Urushrava came Devadatta. Text 21. From Devadatta came a son known as Agnivesya, who was the fire god, Agni himself. This son, who was a celebrated saint, was well known as Kanina and Jatukarnya. Agnivesha was purport. Agnivesha was also known as Kanina and Jatu Karnya. Jatu Karnya. Text 22. O king, from Agnivesha came a Brahminical dynasty known as Agnivesyayana. Now that I have described the descendants of Narishyanta, let me describe the descendants of Dishta. Please hear from me. Okay, I think we'll end right there and we'll continue tomorrow on text 23 and 24. Are there any questions or comments? Any questions or comments? Okay, no questions or comments. We will end on the text 22, and we'll continue tomorrow on text 23 and 24. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Please, my dear devotees, chant Hare Krishna and be happy, knowing very well that the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is the only mantra that is viable and bona fide in this area, in this time of Kali Yuga. You don't have to chant any other mantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
One comment, Maharaj.
Huh?
One comment.
Yes.
In Bhagavatam, Maharaj, so many complex stories that even fiction writers cannot think like this.
That's a fact. That is definitely a fact.
Like changing the gender every month is like very.
Yeah. You see, there's so many things that we don't know. But by reading the Shastras, we learn so many things that are happening that are more fabulous or more more difficult to understand than anything else. But yet it's happening. So what's interesting is that although that they're changing their sex, and when they're a woman, they have a child, and then they become a man again, and then they can have other children. So that's amazing. There's so many strange things that are happening in the world, but they're not actually strange. They're just based on the desires of people. Haribol. Well, it's happening today also. You have so many people that want to change their sex. Then later on, they realize, oh, I made a mistake. Then they want to come back to their original thing. And then they're not satisfied with that. So then they take on another type of identity. Yeah.
And the modern technology is not that perfect as compared to in past. They are without any surgery, anything. They are even.
Well, there's one devotee of Prabhupada, is a man. Then he had his sex changed. He became a woman. And then he wrote to Prabhupada that he was not satisfied because his change of sex was not working properly. Then Prabhupada sent a letter back to him and said, look, make up your mind. You want to be a man or you want to be a woman, and then stick to it. So this was going on even in the time of Srila Prabhupada.
Knowing that these things were happening in past, so that proves nothing is new. Nowadays people are doing is like repeating.
It's not new.
Is repeating same thing.
It's not new. Okay, thank you very much, my dear devotees, and we will continue tomorrow, hearing all about transcendental. Yes, Prabhu, you have a question?
Yes, Maharaj, Haribol. Yeah, I just wanted to quickly ask. I read somewhere. I just wanted to kind of get your proper angle. So it looks like there is some kind of dispute going on in for like a Bangalore temple. Is there, Maharaj? Anything you know about? Like I was reading on some groups that there is a Bangalore ISKCON temple and there is some sort of thing going on with the Indian Supreme Court. Should we even bother about that, or is this just some thing being taken care of? Like I don't fully understand the whole thing, but
I understand less than you.
okay.
Yeah, there's some type of process going on to see who owns that temple.
Okay.
So it's all nonsense. So we should not waste our time thinking about it.
Okay. Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Okay, all glories to Srila
Srila Prabhupada
Prabhupada.
ki jai.
Thank you, Srila Prabhupada, for saving us by giving us seva. Saving
Seva.
us by giving us seva.
That is your motto, Maharaj. Seva will save you.
Yeah, definitely.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.